Beep, 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 beep. Breaking news on the Inside Bassmaster Podcast, episode 183. Ronnie Moore here with my guy Kyle Jessie. He's over there. Not a world record. I almost said world record. State record. New York state record. Largemouth has fallen, I believe, in 1987, 37 years ago. The record was 11 pounds, 4 ounces out of Buckhorn Lake in New York. And boom, on Thursday, July 11th, Kyle, two guys fishing together as buds, practicing for a team tournament, catch a 12.35, I believe, a 12-pound, 5 ounce or 12-pound, 6 ouncer to break the New York state record for largemouth. That it's not every day a state record gets broken, especially in the black bass category.
I think every bass angler, coming up as they, are young and they start learning about bass fishing, I think that's one of the first things you just become intrigued by or fascinated by is world records and state records. It's like I want to hold a record, like, and you don't realize as a youngin how hard that is to do. But when something like this happens, it's such a big deal because you realize how long a record holds, which in most cases is a long, long time. I mean, it's not like most records, whether it be for largemouth, spotted bass, or smallmouth, are broken super frequently, for state, for nation, whatever it is. So obviously such a big deal and super similar because this is how all of our team tournaments go when we fish together is we always break state record bass. So this is right up our alley. So I'm sarcastic. I don't think we've ever broken any positive record of note. So certainly exciting and I had to rush home from work to shoot the podcast, or otherwise I would have rocked my I Heart New York shirt. And I think I speak for anybody that's ever made a cast in New York. It is a special place for bass fishing, and what a special time, honestly.
No doubt. And there's probably 3 to 5, 6 lakes in New York that we would have opens or Elite Series competition. You've got St. Lawrence River, you've got Oneida Lake, Lake Champlain, and then you have those finger lakes over there like Cayuga Lake. And that is exactly where this record was broken. We have known that Cayuga's on the rise. I mean, with largemouth and smallmouth, this lake is one of the best lakes in the nation. And obviously, they have different seasons when you can target bass. This is within the first month of their season opening up. Team tournaments going on, and the last thing you expect is to catch a state record fish. And honestly, when you go fishing and smallmouth are present in any of these New York lakes, you're probably more likely to catch a 7 to 8 pound smallmouth than you would a 10+ pound largemouth. That is absolutely insane. And so yesterday when Jim Britenbaugh, who caught the 12-pounder, him and his partner Dave Rourke, I can't ever say that. I'm an R and a U and an A back to back. I just can't say it correctly. But Jim caught it. Dave netted it. So Dave gets partial record in this. Without his buddy, who knows? And unless we find out that the net job was terrible, but Jim and Dave out pre-fishing for a team tournament. I don't even think they're fishing in the team tournament together. I think they're just local buddies, and they're actually fishing with different people today. Otherwise, we would have done this podcast while they were actually out there competing in their tournament because they were ready to go. But Jim said, I need my buddy Dave with me to tell his side of the story. And so before we have them come on the episode, I'm waiting for them to join the call. Let me tell you how this went down, Kyle. 11:30 on Thursday, July 11th, I get a call in the Taco Bell drive-through. Yes, for those, yeah, my wife has us on a healthy food trend, but when I'm at work, she doesn't know. And so now she knows that I've been at Taco Bell. And so I'm at Taco Bell. I get a Delaware, a Northeast phone number, and it calls me, and I'm like, it doesn't say spam risk, but I don't know that number. So I didn't answer it. I get my food, it says voicemail. I'm pulling out of the road and listen to the voicemail in my truck as I'm driving. And Dave's like, hey, man, you don't remember me maybe, but I was a marshal at an Elite Series event at the Chesapeake in 2016. I have your number from when you were doing Bass Track back then. I figured I didn't know who else to call at Bassmaster. I just wanted to let you all know we have the potential New York State record in our live well right now. We've waited. It's 12 pounds, so it's not even close. It's going to beat the record by at least half a pound, maybe 3/4 of a pound. And yeah, if you want a story about it or want to talk to us about it, just give me a shout. And I said, he's either lying, Kyle, and just wants me on the phone, or this is legit. And so I called Dave, and him and Jim were on speakerphone. They said, we've been sitting in the same spot for 30 minutes on the lake because we don't know what to do. Should we keep fishing? Should we just go back to the ramp? Where's the certified scales to get the DNR approval? They obviously called them and got it certified a few minutes after they talked to me on the phone, but absolutely incredible. Who would have thought a 12 pounder? And for perspective, I mean, 12 pounders happen in Elite Series events. You know, we saw one almost a 12 pounder from Justin Hamner this year. We've seen double digits on Bassmaster Live. Some giants have been caught 40 plus pound bags, but not every state is going to have 16 to 20 pound bass. New York has such a short growing season. Lakes froze over in the winter, things like that, that growing a specimen 12 pounds is absolutely incredible.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, you said it earlier in the podcast about, the odds of catching a 7+ pound smallmouth being significantly higher, on average than to catch a 10+ pound largemouth. And that could not be any more true. And that's not to say that the largemouth fishing is bad. I think you talk about any of these lakes in New York, and the largemouth fishing is fantastic as far as catching numbers. And, average size fish is usually pretty good too. But to catch a largemouth that size on, any of these New York lakes, but also Cayuga being one of those lakes that, is known, a lot or a big time in part for its largemouth. You talk about Bassmaster Elite Series events in the past. They always play huge. Obviously the smallmouth, from what I understand, have made I wouldn't say a comeback, but definitely a charge up there at Cayuga as well. But I mean, one of the better largemouth fishing lakes. But I mean, this is such an anomaly. I mean, like you said, to break the record by a good margin too is such an incredible feat, and a really impressive fish. And I've been fortunate enough to see a picture of it, and it was just amazed by the size of that bass. And I don't care where you catch it. If you catch a 12 pounder anywhere, it's amazing. But then to catch it somewhere where that's so unusual makes it even more special.
What's bad? Okay, so James Hall, I love you. Horns down. The best bass lakes for Bassmasters Top 100 came out just a couple weeks ago. Can we redact that and update it? Because hey, for the Northeast, St. Lawrence obviously took overall. St. Clair second. We have the Open here this week. Absolutely massive weights going on in the Open. Lake Erie, the New York part of it. Lake Erie, the Ohio part of it. I've been to all of these. Burton, Mullet in Michigan, been there. Grand Traverse Bay, Lake Champlain in Michigan and New York, been there. And then Cayuga comes in at 8. I think we're going to have a meeting, and maybe we have a fall updated, redacted, amended list that has Cayuga a little higher. But let's not wait any longer. Jim is on the line. Let's add Jim and Dave to the call to get their recount, if they can recount. Maybe it's been a probably crazy 24 hours. Maybe they can recite it from memory what happened, or maybe they just blacked out. I'm not quite sure, but I want to hear their versions of the story, because that is an absolute amazing fish catch. Jim, Dave, can you guys hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear us, Ronnie?
We can, man. First off, we do this
Nice.
when we have the elite winners on. Congratulations. You didn't win a tournament, but people win tournaments all the time. People don't catch state record fish all the time. So congratulations.
Right. I much appreciated, man. It still doesn't even seem real.
So just walk us through. I told the whole part where Dave called me and I was in the Taco Bell drive-through and I didn't answer his phone number. I heard the voicemail and called him back. So walk us through. You guys are fishing a team tournament, I guess, today and tomorrow, 2 days, and you guys were just practicing. You guys don't live on Cayuga, but from a few hours away. So walk us through heading there. And did you? I mean, I get mad when I hook a 4 in practice. So I don't know how mad or if there's any kind of anger in that.
Yeah, this tournament's kind of a big deal for us. It's it gives all the clubs that's in our local district a chance to really kind of get together and be competitive with each other. And we always try to put our homework in on this one. Um, for this tournament, when I was doing prep and really kind of studying things, a spot on this lake that has always intrigued me was the area where Greg Hackney won in 2014. So, did a lot of map work, trying to see what was so special about it. And I kind of was saving it. I got up here on Wednesday afternoon. Some storms were rolling through. Couldn't really get on the water, so came up to the hotel room, did a little more research, and Thursday I went out. Dave was coming up mid morning to meet me and do a half day of practice with me, and we got out on the water, caught a few fish in some other areas, and Dave called me just before 11. He said, "Hey, come get me," so ran in and picked him up. He said, "What are we doing?" I said, "Look, there's a spot that I really, really, really want to go check out." I said, it's like a 12-mile run. I said, "We'll make the run. It's got deep grass. It's got some other stuff that makes it special." I said, let's go, put some time in there and just see what we can find. Because predominantly for this tournament, a lot of the attention gets put on the northern end of the lake. And the northern end is phenomenal. But I like to try to get away from the crowds whenever we can too. So, ran down to the area. We started fishing down a deep weed edge, probably 18 to 20 foot, something like that.
Yeah, it was 17 to 20.
Yeah. We fished a couple 100-yard stretch, and we noticed the weed edge kind of kept creeping in tighter to the bank, So we kept kind of working our way in with the weed edge. Got down so far, and we realized it was kind of intersecting a main lake point. And that main lake point came out, had very quick access to deep water. We had that grass edge right there, had fresh water coming in, so I said, "Hey man, let's put a little time here. This looks like it could be something." So fished it for a short time. I actually caught a 6 off of there. We were hooting and hollering. We had no idea what was coming, but
Wait, you caught a 6 practicing, and you're like, "Let's keep going." Me and Kyle would have been 15 miles the opposite way. Like, so that's why we don't catch. That's why we don't catch state records.
Let's be fair too. We'd have never caught the 6 to start with, so we'd have never been in that.
No, I didn't want to put a lot of time into it, but I wanted to at least see what the potential was, right? Because we are talking tight to the first day of the tournament. I didn't really want to milk it, right, per se, but I did kind of just want to see what that potential was. So, we released the 6, and we're sitting out on this point and fishing out kind of in the middle of the grass, right? I'm just throwing a Senko out there. I was throwing some other baits when we were out deep, but I always have a Senko tied on when I'm around that like mid-depth grass. Threw the Senko out. We were in like 8 to 10 foot, working it back to the boat, and the bait's like almost under the boat. I'm 2 seconds away from pulling this bait out of the water and recasting, and I felt a bite. Didn't really feel like anything crazy. I was like, "Oh, got a fish," right? So I reeled down and I set the hook, and my rod just, it doesn't even move. Instantly doubles over. And Dave's like, "Oh, you got one." I said, "Yeah, but I'm not even sure if this is a bass," because I hooked it and it really didn't move. It just kind of sat there for a second. And then it started digging down into that grass, down underneath the boat. And he starts burning his bait in, trying to get the net ready, and I'm kind of fighting it under the boat, walking my rod out around the trolling motor, trying to keep it from getting caught up in anything, because I'm running 20-pound J braid to a 12-pound Seaguar leader, fluoro leader on a spinning rod that was designed for Ned rigs and smallmouth. So it was a little hairy. But fighting the fish. Once I get it over to the other side of the boat, it makes a run. And when it makes this run, it comes up really close to the surface of the water, and we could see how wide it was across the back.
you could see how wide it was.
Well,
I
yeah.
just saw the head. I'm like,
Dave
is
is
that like
blacked
another
out at this
6?
point. Yeah, Dave's blacked
He
out.
was,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I'm looking, I'm like trying to see it, and I see a head. He got a better view of it. I'm like, is that another 6? He's like, dude, it's bigger, way bigger than a 6.
Yeah.
And there's another boat that's 100 yards from us. He's just like, keep it down. And I'm like, all right. I got the net and I'm ready. I'm like, I want to see this thing. It's bigger than a 6. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the fish, when it makes that run, I could see across its back. And in my mind, like the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, maybe an 8, right? It was real thick across the back. Well, as it like hits the end of its run, it kind of rolls over on its side. And we saw that girth, and like immediately in my mind, I don't think I said it out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I think this is a double digit, right? So as it's kind of rolling over, it gets its head up and it jumps and it does like a tail walk right across the front of my boat, like 15 foot off the bow of my boat as I'm trying to fight it. And at that point, we were just like focused on getting this thing in the boat.
Thing's a mutant, man. I've never seen anything that big, and I'm just like,
yeah.
We're just like both like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So as it jumps and everything, I had enough pressure on it that I kept it at the surface of the water. My man here swung right in there with that netted this thing, and it was just one of those moments. Like we even talked about it after the fact. We were saying like gibberish to each other. We have no idea what we were even saying when that fish hit inside of my boat. Just absolutely unreal. I didn't even know how to judge its size. My PB up to this point was a 7.1, and that was a long time ago.
Where was that at?
So that was on a farm pond near where I grew up. Small little lake. Yeah,
it was
an elite event.
Can it host an elite event or an open, or how big's this farm pond?
Nah, you guys want to come up here anyways. Just come up to Cayuga.
We really do. We really do.
Yeah.
Well, like how long did it take? I was going to ask this. So like you mentioned, your first sight of seeing this fish, thinking it's a double digit. Like how hard was that even to register in your mind that you're fishing in New York and you think at that moment you have a double digit largemouth in New York? Like that, when you said that, that was the first thing that caught my eye, because I can't imagine watching an elite event, or much less fishing up there and seeing somebody catch a potential double digit largemouth. Like how hard was that to register at the time?
I didn't know that. I didn't think I could register it, to be honest with you, because something I've done my whole life, man. Flipping through Bassmaster magazine, checking out the Lunker Club, right? That's always been my thing, and even me and my buddies used to sit around and talk about it. Like, man, we'll probably never get in the Lunker Club for a largemouth, but we can do it for a smallmouth, because I grew up close to Erie, so we fished it a lot. But honestly, it was unfathomable, absolutely unfathomable. And until we put it on the scale, I couldn't accurately judge the size of that fish. I've never in my life
because we
held a bass like that.
We turned the live well on and immediately put it in there and just let it soak in for a minute. And Jim's like, dude, how big do you think that is? And I'm like, well, I've never seen anything like it. I'm like, I'd be really disappointed, because I big-eyed his 6-pounder. I thought it was bigger.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I don't want to be wrong again, but I'm like, I'm going to be really disappointed if it's not 9. So walk us through the moment, because I got a perspective from what I was trying to do. Like every time we opened that lid and peeked in there, it was just like, this is not real.
It was like a unicorn in my boat. It was insane.
John Cruz told us a story when I was with him on Monday shooting a feature, and he said, my favorite thing to do is to take my kids out to Smith Mountain, catch a few quick little fish, put them in the live well, and the kids were entertained for hours, just opening the lid, looking at them, touching them, closing the lid, switching them to the other side.
Yeah.
So now we see grown adults looking at a 12-pounder, putting it into one side, putting it into the other, picking it up, peeking in there, making sure it doesn't jump out. Is this thing really
Yeah.
real? Did I wake up from my dream or not?
And that's exactly what it was. You know, the thing about that fish that really still mesmerizes me is just how wide it was. So I'm going to fast forward for just a second. The official length was 25.25 inches long, and the girth was 21 inches.
Wow.
So to see that 21 inches in the form of a largemouth bass in my live well in my boat, it's something that's like singed in my memory forever. It was crazy because I kept opening the live well, and I would just roll her on her side to make sure that like oh my God, this thing is real and it's in my boat right now. So very very surreal.
So Dave, what was your perspective?
Oh man, so at this point, the boat that we talked to, probably just 5 short minutes ago, is like probably 200 yards down the bank. They're working the bank, working some docks, and I just want to see the scale. So he's got his scale on, and I'm just like peeking over his shoulder. He's like, dude. He wanted me to block so they couldn't see what we were doing. I'm like, all right, I got it. So he hooks it on there, and I'm like, I'm looking, I don't care. And all I saw was a 12 on there. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, dude, look up the state record right now, right away. And I was like, my initial instinct was like, that could be the biggest fish ever caught in this state. But I just wanted to see a 10. So when I saw a 12, it blew my mind. And I saw his face because he saw it first, but then I like saw his face, and then I just zoomed in to see there. I'm like, I saw that 12. I'm like, this is not real. I'm like, pick that thing up. Because I thought, like, I don't know. I'm like, it's not real. Something's happening where it's weighing way more than it is. There's like 12-pounders in New York.
You're right. Yeah.
I was gonna say Dave's a better friend than Kyle, because if Kyle saw the scale and said 12, he's like, your scale's messed up. Get some more batteries or something. That would have been the first thought of, it's got to be 9. There's no way it's 12. So good job on that.
Go ahead.
The good thing, we did have 2 scales in the boat. We hit it with mine first. Mine actually read pretty light. I was a little surprised, after the fact, kind of looking back. So the first number we saw was 12.08. And we're hugging and carrying on in the boat, and I get it back in the live well, and he's like, hey, I have my scale. So he dug his out.
Just another reason to get in the live well and mess with this thing for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to have another reason. Yeah.
Yeah. His read 12.25. And then the DNR scale actually read 12.35. And I did get a phone call today that has been certified and is the record. So
let's go. That's awesome.
Pretty wild, man. Yeah.
So how did you do in today's tournament? Did you even catch a bass, or like were you just? I texted you during the day.
I've got a follow-up question on that too. I've been thinking this whole time. It's like, did you guys like fist fight in the parking lot for who's going to start there? Because you guys didn't even fish together. Like, how did we determine that?
Yeah. So Dave is going as a rider.
Okay.
In this tournament, so he was kind of at the mercy of his boater today, and I did go ahead and
hey, I have a spot if you haven't had a good. I know of an area.
Yeah, right.
No, that spot is Baltimore, man. It's not. It's not coming out of the vault, man. It's.
Hey, if Greg Hackney asked you, no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
We did okay. This is a team event, like I was saying, where our club kind of goes up against other clubs that are in our district, and standings aren't out yet. I had 5 fish for just shy of 15 pounds. I had 2 small ones I couldn't get rid of. Dave, you had 5.
Yeah, 5 for just short of 14. So
yeah,
we got our work cut out for us tomorrow for sure.
Yeah,
there were some good bags waiting.
Well,
I'm just trying to think, Ronnie. I'm just trying to think, Ronnie, what it would be like if you got in the boat with your boater and you said, "Dude, I got a spot where my buddy caught a 12-pounder yesterday." And he's like, "Sure he did.
Yeah, I bet
Sure
you
he did.
did, buddy. I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah.
I bet, pal."
Was there a pre-tournament meeting last night?
There was not.
Oh, I was about to say, I would have walked in there with my whole king of fantasy fishing and the robe, the crown and the robe. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. So you said Senko. Can you run through your whole setup, line, your weight, and all that jazz, rod, everything?
Yeah. So I was fishing with I told you it was an Ed rig rod, right? Built for catching smallmouth. So it's a Rain Shadow Immortal, custom built from a friend of mine. His company's name is JPD Custom Fishing Rods. Small little outfit. He just does it on the side, does a very good job though. 610, medium, extra fast. I was running a Daiwa Tatula reel with 20-pound Jackal J braid down to a 12-pound Seagar leader. Had a Trocar wacky rig hook and Junebug Senko on that thing. So not a setup you could envision landing a 12-pounder with. So it was interesting.
So it was mid-depth grass, and so was it topped out if you were throwing like a wacky rigged Senko Junebug? How were you fishing it to get it to fish it all the way back to the boat? You know what I'm saying? Like normally you don't fish back to the boat. Once you get halfway back, you might reel it up. So was there a strategy to that?
I wouldn't say a strategy so much. So like I said, it was kind of a tapering point. Boat was in between 8 and 10 foot. Actually, I was casting into about the same. A little bit of a shelf in there, but
it was just long coontail strands.
Yeah.
So there was space in between the strands. So you just chuck it out there and let it drop and just work it back, and you're not really working through a ton of grass. It's not like a bed of hydrilla or milfoil or eelgrass. It's caked pretty good on the bottom for like 2 or 3 feet, but you got like 5 feet of just long strands that would probably come up to maybe just a foot short of the surface.
Yeah, definitely not topped out, Ronnie.
What's the water temp? Set up that, because if you go on that southern end, that's where it gets so deep that lake monsters live, and when the south wind blows, that cold water really messes up the north end. So what's the water temp and the Cayuga situation? Are these fish on bed or just got off bed and they're starting to get post spawn, or
early post spawn? Water temp from what I was registering was 75. Now we have had a little bit of a heat wave, as I'm sure you're aware. We left the house.
Hurricane, right? The hurricane still hit y'all up there on Wednesday that you were referencing, right?
Yeah. So coming out of a heat wave, so I think it kind of spiked that water temp a little bit. I'm not sure historically over the last few weeks what it's looked like, but definitely a post spawn fish. DNR, when they were checking her out and everything, they did confirm that she had no eggs.
Wow.
So that was another conversation we had.
It was pretty, and I didn't see many marks on it like it had just finished spawning, and so it looked like I couldn't tell if it was a pre or post because it just looked so pretty.
Yeah, she had a little bit of a sore on the bottom side of the tail there, but no other signs of spawning activity going on at the time of the catch.
So one thing I did want to ask is, you've mentioned about, getting it certified and all that. And you got to consider 99% of bass anglers never have the opportunity to do that. So walk us through what that process was like, just in case somebody that's watching ever gets in a situation like this.
Right. So very nerve-wracking. I'm going to let everybody know, be patient, because, hands are shaking. We're still fist bumping and everything else. And I'm trying to kind of search on my phone, how this process works. I've never done it before. Basically just did a Google search for a New York DNR number, talked to an operator. I said, look, we're on Cayuga. I have what I believe to be the next state record largemouth in my live well. So kind of put me through a couple channels, internally with the DNR to get me in touch with somebody that was local to that region. Talked to a gentleman, after kind of being relayed around a few times, that reached out to the aquatic biologist, talked to them. I said, look, this is what we got. He said, what did it read on your scale? And I told him both numbers. He said, oh my, he said that, the record was 11.4.
Not even close. Like,
he
it's
said, we
not
need
an
to-
ounce or two.
we need to
You're
get
going to beat
somebody
it
out
by
there.
beating it by a pound. Like, normally you're like worried, like, oh, my scale says this. Hopefully it's not light on the certified. But you guys were so, I mean,
Yep.
that's a pound heavier, with it being 12 and
Yeah.
a third.
Yeah. So basically they called me up. They said, hey, we're packing up the scales. They asked where we launched out of. We were out of Union Springs yesterday. So met them up there about an hour later or so. I was done fishing for the day. Dave was still pre-fishing a little bit, but I was spent. So
You had worked through that area thoroughly, so you were good, right?
yeah, thoroughly enough, apparently, right, Ronnie?
Foot in the door.
Yeah, so they met us up there. Very cut and dried, man. Obviously we took extra care with that fish. Very, very conscientious about live well conditions. Made sure we had a ton of G juice in there for her to keep her healthy. And we got up there, met the DNR folks. They pretty much backed up right to the ramp. Filled up a tournament bag and carried her over, and I guess the rest is history, right?
What
That's
was
incredible.
their initial reaction whenever you pulled the fish out of the live well? Because I imagine it was just as much of a shock for whoever showed up.
It was, yeah. Just kind of big eyeing it like we did, just the shock and awe look.
So,
Yeah.
is that in Bass Pro Shops? Does DNR still have it? Is it back in Cayuga?
We were really surprised. We talked to the DNR folks. So we did weight on two different scales. One read in grams, I think.
Kilograms.
The other one read in pounds. And then, when they weighed on the kilograms, they put it on the one that weighed pounds. They did the calculation for kilograms, and it both matched dead at 12.35. Then they took a length measurement, took a couple scales off of her. That's how they judge the age of that fish. And then said, hey, go ahead and throw her back if you want to throw her back.
Wow.
And that was it,
So you just rode
some of
around
the
the rest of the
conversation-
day and hung out with her in the live well for some more time, right before you.
That's funny because that was one of my first questions because our guy Lenny took the ride out to release her, close to where he was caught. And I saw the release video, and I'm like, what was your reaction when you released it? I'm like, I wanted to know like what your emotions were, and I was kind of surprised by your answer.
What?
What were you feeling as you released it?
Just, I don't know. It's still a feeling I can't really describe, to be honest. It was a deal where it's like, hey, she's got to go back where she lives, right? We got to protect her, but at the same time, it was like, man, just the whirlwind that fish has brought on. It was crazy.
That's
Yeah, you said you were sad.
Yeah,
You said he was
yeah.
sad, and I'm like,
I
that's
was
like
man.
that was his pet for like 3 hours, and like
That's what. Hey, I asked
Like-
about if it was going back in the lake or Bass Pro Shops, or they took it, because I feel like it's a parent dropping their kid at camp, and it's kind of like, I don't want, like, can I come with you and like hang out? Like, you just see a kid, bye, and they got to run off there, and you're like,
Right.
actually, I need a break,
Yeah.
but I don't want them to be gone,
Yeah, that's how it was, man. I when we were out there and Lenny was videoing, I was holding her over the side of the boat, and I'm like, do I really want to let her go? And then in my mind, it's like, that's where she lives, man. You gotta let her go, So
You take her back to the exact
let her
spot
go.
or a different spot?
Very close, very close. Went out a little deeper. We wanted to give her a chance to kind of have some sanctuary after a couple hours of stress like that. So
Especially with Lenny holding her or being around her. I know how he probably has had her all kinds of freaked out because he's a wiry guy.
he is, yeah.
If you guys would have
Hey,
told me on the
Ronnie.
phone that Lenny is gonna be there, I would have did the podcast immediately, knowing he's a social media star. He was gonna post it everywhere or send it everywhere. I was like, dang, I didn't know. You know, he had an informant with y'all.
Well, Lenny's right here, man. We're gonna pull him in for a minute.
Hey, I like it. I
No, I'm
like it.
filming,
Hey,
Ronnie.
there we
Yeah,
go.
look at that, look
See,
at
there
that.
he is. There he is.
Hollywood, man.
So when we went to go release the fish, he didn't five more times.
Oh, in and out. Yeah.
Gotta
yeah,
dip
in
it,
and out.
and
Yeah.
and then she doesn't really swim off viciously, and you're like, she doesn't want to leave. She actually wants to stay. Like,
Yeah.
okay, if you want to stay, I'll just keep you then. You know,
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
funny. Hey, I do have a question. We were talking about it before we had you guys on. Bassmaster did the top 100 lakes over the last month. They posted it, and I looked, and Cayuga is listed as 8th. Now I've been to the top 8 or 10 with it having St. Lawrence, Champlain, Grand Traverse Bay, the Twin Lakes, Burton, Mullet, Michigan, Erie, both New York and Ohio, and then Cayuga was 8th. I was like, we're gonna have to ask James Hall to update and amend that. But in New Yorkers' minds, I said, we've been to Oneida, Champlain, St. Lawrence, Cayuga for different events. Cayuga's special to us. How special is it to New Yorkers? Because you do have phenomenal places all within a few hours of each other that are world-renowned bodies of water. But Cayuga is one it's getting specialer by the day, it feels.
Yeah, obviously the three of us are out of PA.
PA,
But
sorry,
talking to a couple folks, and actually today when we got off the water, we saw Jamie Hartman was in the parking lot. He was out with a friend of his that's a guide, and we talked to him for just a couple quick minutes, and he's like, man, this lake is just absolutely special. And in all honesty, even though we're out of state, say the feeling is mutual. 100%.
I feel like Cayuga is still the bridesmaid to the St. Lawrence River, though. I feel like
Yeah.
It's
the,
just
the
like
allure of St. Lawrence.
how
Yeah,
big it is, though. How big the St. Lawrence is, and then you try
Yeah.
to compare like Cayuga's it goes down there and it's pretty long, but really the fishable areas of tournaments, like it goes down in a lot smaller of a region than the St. Lawrence does. And so that's why it's so special, is that some of these places are just, chocked full of big ones in a small area compared to 110 miles of the St. Lawrence, plus the Ontario factoring in and stuff. So no, I've been to Cayuga for an elite event or a couple of elite events. And at least, hey, did you tell Jamie Hartman, I know you won an elite on this lake, but you never caught a 12-pounder on this lake, like you
I did not.
that.
I did not. Yeah, I should have though. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey
Yeah,
Ronnie,
you would,
it is the New York Dottie. There is a freckle
Yeah.
on the left gill plate all the way in the back. So if this fish ever gets caught again, they gotta look for the little freckle, and yeah, that's the fish.
On the
We're gonna call-
did you say on the left side?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're gonna call her Spotty.
Spotty. Nice.
Yeah. Since Dottie's already taken, because that fish was super special too. So
That's awesome.
but yeah.
Well, cool. Before we go, what's the small district club that you guys fish out of? Give them a shout out, because you probably wouldn't have been there on a Wednesday and a Thursday at Cayuga this week otherwise, Or
Yeah,
Dave wouldn't have made you run to the ramp and then go test this area. You would have been fishing somewhere else, maybe,
Potentially, yeah. So we're all members of Elite Force Bassmasters on the hat there. Lenny's actually vice president of the club. I don't know how they put him in charge of that. I'm assistant VP, and then we have a president, Rick Mullen. He's a super passionate guy when it comes to fishing, and that camaraderie that comes with that club environment. So
That's awesome. Dave, you gonna marshal anytime soon, man?
Yeah, I mean, last time we tried to get on the upper Chesapeake Bay, we got flooded out. All the debris was out there and it got canceled. So
I got the trophy right over there if you still want it. It's on our shelf in the studio. If you ever watch Bass Live, we got the classic trophy and we got the elite trophy. Well, the elite trophy is from the Chesapeake that never happened.
I think Dave deserves that.
Yeah,
right.
The man on the bay is dangerous.
That man.
I just
We need to go back. We need to go back, especially maybe not in August, maybe like in June. That would be good.
Yeah.
So Ronnie, technically you were you even beat the DNR. You were the first one to find out outside of club members. So I just remembered my head was spinning and I'm like, okay, state record, DNR, who can we call? I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I got Ronnie's number. I'm like, we gotta get this through B.A.S.S. So
I called Such when I was 1 mile away and said, Such, write this story. You're not going to write a better daily limit story. I promise you. Write this story. And then I called James Hall later after we had a internal Bassmaster meeting. I called him and said, I didn't mention in the meeting, but we've got a story coming of this and we'll get the photos to you as well for the magazine. And I said, they want to be in the Lunker Club. And I said, we could probably do them one better and get them in the Lunker Club. So this not every day that a state record happens. So me and Kyle were talking about that. Absolutely awesome. And we know every single good fish catch, if there's a netman present, has a good netman story too. So at least there was no and on the third try Dave got it. At least it was like, Assassin Dave, when it got close, he got it,
Nah, he was worn out, man. That was 100% Jim. My job was easy.
That's awesome. Well, hey fellas, I appreciate it. Congratulations. And we wanted to do the impromptu podcast that'll air this weekend, since we're gonna do another great Bassmaster Live tomorrow with St. Clair. The weight's here. It's almost 50 pounds for 2 days to lead. So it's going to be fun tomorrow, which is Saturday. This podcast, if you're watching it, is airing Sunday morning. Congratulations, fellas. Officially, the new New York Largemouth Record, 12.35. Jim Britenbaugh, let's go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congrats, guys. We will talk soon. And Dave, I don't even have to tell you this. If you need anything, call us. You already did that. So
I got you, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks, Kyle.
Ronnie.
Appreciate it.
I expect a couple sixes tomorrow in the team bags. Okay.
We're gonna put our heads together and figure something out for tomorrow.
Awesome.
I might forfeit. I had 1 for 1 pound today.
Oh, Lenny.
Right.
He's still swimming around looking for that fish on the brain. That's awesome. Hey, it sounds like a day 2 rebound, but either way, it'll be a phenomenal, worthwhile week, whether it's a tournament win or memories that'll honestly, this record lasted 37 years. It gets a little scary when you break it. It could get broken next week, but in the meantime, enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Most deserving person to have it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.